Assalamu alaikum, family, peace, healing, and light. And welcome back to a new episode of Healing with Angelica's podcast, where we discuss all things healing. And if you are new to the show, welcome, beautiful souls. On today's show, we have a beautiful guest joining us today, Sister Tequella Muhammad, as we'll be discussing today's topic, trusting the journey. Sister Tequella, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum, family. I am wonderful, and thank you so much, Sister Angelica, for this wonderful opportunity to be on this podcast. I am so excited.
Yes, ma'am, I am as well. I've been waiting to have you on the show, so all praises are due to Allah, Sister Tequella. Now, for the audience that don't know who you are, do you mind letting our audience know just a little bit more about you?
Yes, ma'am. Well, first and foremost, I'm just your sister. I was born and raised in the Nation of Islam. My mother's in the Nation of Islam. I have 3 other siblings. I'm the oldest of 4. I am a wife, a mother of 7. I am a student coordinator for Friday Night Study Circle. Been doing that for at least 3 or 4 years. And I am also in the ministry class, which I so love. Um, I just graduated from the Vanguard. So now I am on the MGT side.
Oh, wow.
And I am just a sister who is here to just aid and help. And just, I love our people. So that's just pretty much who I am.
Wow, so beautiful, Sister Tequella, and congratulations to moving over to the MGT side. I know, oh my gosh, such a beautiful thing. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. All right, so. Now let's get started on today's episode, Trusting the Journey. And please, for my audience today, do not hesitate to put any questions you may have for our guest, Sister Tequella Muhammad, in the comment box below. So, to give you all more of a clear view of what today's show will be about, we'll just be discussing some of Sister Tequella's journey, also discussing the essence of embracing your singleness and not judging yourself for where you are in your life, trusting and knowing that God will never leave you empty-handed. So remember, a life is an amazing journey, and at times the journey may seem challenging or unclear. However, remember, every step you take, every decision you make is a contribution to your growth and the person you are becoming. So trust the journey, for it is a path of self-discovery and transformation. Praise be to Allah. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. So we're going to get straight to it, Sister Tequella. So, me and you had a nice conversation before the show. And I just want us to dive deep in your journey of just how you embraced your time of singleness and building your relationship with God to finally being united with your husband. Can you talk about that?
Yes, ma'am. Beautiful. We starting it out.
Yes, let's go.
Thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, please feel free. I'm open book. All praise due to Allah. So, just so you all know, prior to, I was raised in the Nation of Islam, and at a certain age, I kind of ventured away. And so that was around 15, 16, as I was trying to graduate, high school and all those things. And I did not come back into the nation until 2010. And I think I was around 21, 22. And at that time, I was single, but married. I don't know. So I was with my ex-husband who, we were just in the world. We met in the world, not in the nation. And we, had children, and it was just not what Allah wanted for me. I just did not, for myself, I feel like I didn't make the right decision at that time. Young and not wise. And so during that time, I pretty much was by myself and raising children, still having children at the time, because I was thinking that I can make this work. all these different things. But I basically was by myself. So at a certain point, I was divorced by myself for 5 years. And like I told Sister Angelica, that was very hard to be a mother, to be by myself. And I did not have assistance. And a lot of people think, oh, okay, she gets child support. She's going to get this. I didn't have anything. My total faith and trust was in Allah. Everything. And when I say my total faith and trust, I mean every part of my being was focused on striving to be righteous, following the path, study, reading, and praying, because I did not have any clue how I was going to make it through that time. But like they say, put your big girl pants on, go for it. And so that's all it was. Allah guided me through that time. And what I want to share is, a lot of us, say, okay, we focus on Allah, but are we really focused? Because it took a lot of discipline to get to that place. I fell off, it was rocky in the beginning, but I was striving to eat how to eat to live, 1 meal a day. I was going to 1 meal every other day. I was working out, taking care of my children, fasting, praying every morning, striving to do all 5 prayers. Not saying I was successful in all 5, because there was times where I was just super busy working and I didn't, but there were times where I still would make those prayers up at the end of the day. Praying the refuge prayer 7 times a day, all throughout the day, listening to nothing but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and lectures from other believers, Minister Ava, just literally so focused, reading, studying, not watching any TV. And there was something that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, and he said it in our study guides. And I got to remember which one it was. I didn't go grab it, but he was saying that if there's something that you desire, that you want, trust in Allah and write it down, and Allah will manifest that for you. He'll make it happen, and you'll know Allah is God. And so nobody knew this, but I had a journal that I still have, that I've had for over 10 years. And I wrote in that, I wanted to be married. I wrote down the husband that I wanted. I wrote down all these things that I desire. And it wasn't, I asked Allah to help me to think the way that He thinks of what I need, not necessarily my, just personal wants, but just, what you desire from me, Allah. And then I just wrote those things down, patience, man, it's understanding, just certain things. And I prayed about it and I manifested it. And by Allah's grace and mercy, I met my husband. And it was a technicality, and we can go into that later on through the show. But I do want to add one more thing, says Angelica. Prior to that, there was this event for NFA that they were doing. And I want to show the power of just whatever you desire. I've never got to meet the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I grew up watching him and hearing him and seeing him in person. But I always used to hear people say, oh, I met him and I ate dinner with him and I, touched his hand and I gave him a hug and I've been to the farm, and I'm just sitting here like, man, I want to go. So I spoke to, there was some believers, I believe they were from the 18, and, one of them was talking. He was like, I'm talking to Mr. Farrakhan. So I'm like, let me talk to him. They was like, so he was like, if you ever want to meet him, you just got to manifest it, sis. And I was like, wow, okay. He said, you just got to pray to Allah and ask Allah. And I did just that. And it's like, boom, the next day was a believers meeting. They were saying, hey, if you can sell a certain amount of subscriptions for NFA, you get to eat dinner with the minister. I said right then and there, I said, I'm going to be in that number. It was 50 people. I said, I'm going to be in that number. Trust me. I told one of my sister friends, she can bear witness. I said, I'm going to be in that number. By God's grace and mercy, I went to work, and I was number 3 in that number of selling those subscriptions, and was able to eat and have dinner with the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. So that's something I will never, ever forget. And so I just wanted to add that.
Ooh, praise be to Allah. That just made me think about how, faith without works is dead. So like you wanted it, you desired that. And then Allah put a situation where you had to work for it, work to see the minister. And you did just that. Like, it's going to happen. And inshallah, one day I'll be there too.
Yes.
Yes, I want to meet him so bad. Yes, praise be to Allah. Yes, I love that. So I'm glad that you had brought up also the fact of how, like, we how can I say? We say that because at a point in time you were saying how like you were just being strictly you strictly focus on yourself, focus on Allah. And I'm so glad that you brought that up as far as exactly what it was that you were doing, because sometimes, we say that we're striving, but are we striving in all the areas? We may be lacking in something. And that's what I've realized and I noticed in my growth in just being in a nation is that anytime that something is off with me, there has to be an alignment with me and a lie somewhere. I might not be doing something. I'm doing something right. So that makes me go back to those, making sure I'm doing my prayer. Praise be to Allah. I'm just now starting my 1 meal a day because I was breastfeeding. So I'm just now doing that, but just really understanding exactly what it is that you have to do in order to be focused on a lot, and that's being disciplined and being obedient. So,
Let me grab my charger really quick as you're still speaking. Give me one
oh,
second. Yes.
yes, go right ahead, go right ahead. So, and I just love the fact of how even even in the midst of the fact of what she was going through, you know, and having to do everything by herself, not having any support, not knowing what the next year or two is going to look like. She said she was by herself for 5 years. You know, could we hold off that long? Like, and so that's how you got to know, like, that's why you got to know your God. You got to know that, okay, even if it's 5 or 10 years from now, you know, and I love what he just said, being humble. You was
Absolutely.
humbled in the journey. So yes, praise be to Allah. So I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of talk about the fact of how oh Lord, I lost my train of thought. Um because a lot of women, um I, I I believe that that was probably one of the hardest decisions you had to make,
It was.
to actually get up and leave a situation that you've been in for a long time, having children already. Majority of women believe that, hey, sometimes they feel like, hey, I'm not gonna find nobody else. I might as well just, deal with what I got and just make it work out, even despite the fact that they may not be, happy, but they settle. So, can you just talk about what was it that happened inside of you that built up that strength and that courage to just go ahead and not even think about the what ifs and the fact of how, maybe the history that you guys have or your children, and just going ahead and just doing it by yourself and moving on.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. So, I feel like Allah was just telling me. And I know he hates divorce. And all people's like, okay, Allah hates divorce. However, I remember the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan when he was speaking about relationships in his lecture. I think it was about marriage and relationships, but he was like, some of us are divorced or getting divorced because we should never have been married in the first place.
Mm.
So a lot of it, just because you got married doesn't mean that that was the right marriage for you. It doesn't mean that that's what Allah had for you. I knew what I desired. I was raised in Islam. So in my mind, I always wanted an FOI, period. There was no option, but we take shortcuts. And that's the thing. But I wasn't in the mindset at the time. So I was with someone who, when I came back into the nation, I brought him with me. And I said, I'm going back into Islam. And he came with me. He got registered with me. But it was not in his heart. That is not what he.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I found him trying to pull me down and pull me away from Islam. And I had a boundary set up that if I'm going to be with someone, if they try to pull me away from my salvation, that's something that I don't want, or nor do I need.
Mm.
And so I had to talk to Allah and pray to him hard about the decision to divorce. And I stayed because I knew that Allah did not desire divorce. He did
Yes.
not want it. However, I asked Allah what he felt was best. And I knew that I would have to go through that. I knew that I would possibly be a single mother. And I knew that it's a possibility that I would never be married again. But at that time, my peace of mind was what I desired. I didn't care about anything else because it was hell in that relationship. Because when you have someone going against Allah, going against Islam, you want to pray, they want to do other things, you want to study, they're sneaking and they want to smoke cigarettes or drink or party, or your devotion is different and they're not. That's like living with a devil. And that's how it felt to me. Nothing against my ex-husband, it was just that's what was happening for me. So I prayed, and I remember I went to Savior's Day, and I remember the minister saying, he said, "Sister, you need a new man in your life." About domestic violence, he talked about different things, infidelity, and these things were going on. And so he's telling us, like, we don't deserve that. And so once you know your worth as a woman, and Islam builds your worth, I bear witness that Islam tells you who you are and what you are as a woman, and it helps you to see that within yourself. And I was devotedly in student minister Ava's, may Allah be pleased with her books. And I have one right here, A New Way of Life. And I had all her books, but this one really, and Naturally Beautiful, those two really just changed my whole mind and just what I wanted and what I needed and what I desired in my life. And so I just made that decision. I prayed on it and I said, Allah, I'm just going to stand on it. And it felt like a weight was lifted off of me when I made that decision. Like, I knew it was going to be hard.
Yes.
But I knew that it was something that I had to do.
Yes, yes. Praise be to Allah. I bring that up, because even with, sisters that may not be in a nation, a lot of sisters, women tend to keep themselves in situations and end up losing their peace, losing their salvation, and sometimes losing their lives, like depending on how deep the situation is. And I truly believe, and I bear witness to Sharana. Listen, I'm so grateful for Islam and the teachings and joining the nation, because I was able to gain a confidence that I've never felt before. Because just listening to the minister and just going back and just listening to how, the value of the woman, like, I never knew that. I never knew we were so valuable. So I think that's the big disconnect when it comes to, our women that's still out here in the world. They just don't know how valuable they are. And you don't understand that when you don't know who you are, you don't know yourself, you're open to prey, you're open to deception, you're open to things that is not of good for you. So, I love that you brought that up. And it kind of, when I think about like single women and, having to do it on their own, I think about the story of Hagar. I always think about that. Like, she just trusted in God and Allah and just, made it happen. So I really believe that's definitely something that us women, even if we're single, with children, to kind of ponder over and think about the story of Hagar. I love that story. So yes, praise be to Allah. So because that takes me back to just how our women, again, are subject to staying in situations, toxic situations, wherever the case may be. Explain why it is so important that women, even now, today, Nation Islam, women, just in general, we're not going to separate it, just all of us. Why is it so vital, even in this time, that the woman in general should gain a relationship with God?
That's a wonderful question. You mentioned Hagar, and that was how I saw myself 100%. Just going to and fro, but trusting in Allah, and Allah made things happen. It is so important to have Allah because we have nothing and no one else. And we can clearly see that. Some women, we grow up, we're latchkey. Some of us, our parents have to work and be away from the home. So, we're learning at early ages how to take care of ourselves. Some of us don't have all that we need to survive. We're just out here feeling lonely and alone. But I bear witness that Allah is with us. A lot of times it's the fact that we don't trust and Allah, we don't have faith, and we don't have patience, which
Mm.
is why we can't see, what's ahead, because we're trying to figure it out. And that's not how Allah works. He wants us to be like Moses and the wise man, that just trust me on this journey. I at a certain point, I was trying to control everything. And that's where I found myself so stressed and overwhelmed. It was times where I wasn't even in present time, because I was just so deep in my own thoughts that it was times I got home. I don't even know how I got home, because I was I don't even remember the ride home, just in my own thinking.
Mm.
Can't keep up with things, can't keep up with my keys, don't know where my phone is, because I was always just thinking, trying to figure out, okay, should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? Never thinking, let me go to Allah and ask Him. And just leaning on that inspiration. There was like, before I moved to Atlanta, I was in Memphis, and I was praying to Allah, like, about the move. Allah kept telling me, it was on my spirit, it was in my dream. Allah kept saying, move, you have to move.
Mm.
Like, what you mean move, Allah? I bought my house. Here I am with my children. And I kept hearing Him say, move, you got to relocate. So I'm sitting here like no clue. And I did a 3-day. I was in this room. I had burning sage. I was praying. I was crying. I was talking to Allah. My children, I'm just like, y'all gotta give mommy a moment, because I have
Yeah.
to figure out what Allah is trying to tell me. And I'm just talking to Him, and I'm reading, and I'm studying, and I'm in this room. There's nothing in there, mind you. It's just me and my prayer rug and my study guides. And I'm crying, and I'm looking for Allah to answer me. And then I spoke to a sister. She said, write down. She said, you're supposed to move. I like you telling you to move. She said, where are you going to move? I said, Atlanta. She said, write down Atlanta. She said, write down Memphis. She said, write down the pros and the cons of leaving or staying. So I'm like, okay, I wrote it down. Everything for Atlanta was higher than Tennessee. So she said, when you make that decision, she said, stick to the decision. She said,
Mm.
overthink it. Don't go back on it. She said, we have to learn to trust ourselves. We have to learn to trust Allah. And we have to learn to just go with what Allah desires. Don't think about what's going to happen. Just make the decision and stick to it no matter what. I made a decision. I said, we'll move. Stuck to that decision. And I thank Allah so much for making that decision, for me standing and listening to Him as He aided and pushed me too. So sometimes we're not going to know. So it's so important to just trust in Allah. If we must go through something, it's because there's something Allah wants us to hear, see, or feel. There's a lesson in it. And
Mm.
we may not know. Again, I asked Allah, I said, oh, Allah, make me more patient. So He tested me with my children.
Lord, listen, yes.
You ask for patience. If you say that, make me more humble. I asked Allah to make me humble one time. He took everything from me. Literally, like, I was rock bottom, like everything. And I had to humble, like there was nothing left but humility at that point.
Yeah.
So when we ask Allah for something, we don't know what it's going to look like when He take us through that journey. But this is what you asked for. You asked for this. And so you just have to trust, have faith, and know that Allah is God and He got us. And I promise you, He is going to take care of us. And I'm here as an inspiration, motivation, and I bear witness that Allah is God and that He got us.
Yes. Oh, Lord. Praise be to Allah. Oh, wow. Uh, that we are always in our heads. You said what you said sound like just things that I went through, and just like contemplating all the time. Like, should I do this? Should I do that? And sometimes Allah may have gave me the answer. I'm still questioning it. Like, but it don't look right. No, this is what Allah has for you. And I feel like Sister Ava had brought something up in her book about the importance of making decisions, like making decisions quick.
Yes.
I don't know which book it was, but that sticks in my mind, because I feel like, and of course she explained it, I believe, just like when we're when we think about something and we want to do it and we let time just linger on, we get ourselves out of the decision that we want to make.
Absolutely.
So we got to be able to, in whatever situation you may be going through, if it's a relationship, if it's business, and whatever it is that God has for you, believe it, trust it, and do it. Just do it. So, yes, praise be to Allah. So, wow. This is so beautiful, you guys. Please, I need some interaction. Go ahead and put a 1 in the comment box if you guys are loving what Sister Tequella. See?
Okay.
Sister Tequella is speaking about today is so, so beautiful. Praise be to Allah. So, you brought up earlier in the show, right? And a lot of the times, like when I joined the nation, I didn't know nothing about no courtship. I'm like, what is that? When I didn't know anything before I joined. But when they broke down courtship and the beauty of courtship, I'm like, man, everybody should be doing this. You ain't wasting no time. You getting straight to the listen. This is what I want. Like courtship to me is like you know your intentions of why you're even dealing with this person or want to pursue them. But majority in the world, we find ourselves just okay with how the situation is, and then just find ourselves 5 6 years later in a situation that, oh, I was not supposed to be in this.
Right.
What happened? So I want to just talk about just in your time period of just waiting and praying to Allah and manifesting your husband, like can you just explain just how you believe that the courtship process is so important, especially when it comes to women, when it comes to finding their husband or mate?
Absolutely. And going back to what I said prior, I wish that I would have went through that process as a young woman. It wasn't what's the word? It wasn't pushed as hard back then as I feel like it is now, or I just maybe wasn't aware. I just don't remember them talking about it as much growing up in the 90s. But it is so important. And like you said, you use the word intention. So going into a courtship, you're going in with the intent that is this person going to be my husband or wife? We're not going into it to play games. We're not going into it with any of that. And I think as you get older, you're like, I don't have time to play.
Mm-hmm.
So even with my husband, we did not talk on the phone prior to. We were not in each other's inboxes. Brother Jamil always make jokes about it because I told him, do not come in my inbox. We did not meet like on Facebook, even though we've been friends for a while. He followed me on social media. I never really knew him. I didn't never engage and talk with him personally. We met through a friend who knew me and knew him and felt like we would be a good match. And she really set us up. She told me she would help with the birthday party. She told him the same thing. She took a raggedy picture. I was looking real raggedy that day, getting off of work, looking a mess. But that's fine because this is how you got to see me.
Mm-hmm.
Sent it to him. He already knew who I was, so he was excited. And then she put us on this birthday Zoom, but we got on. It's me and him on here, and I'm like, oh, here we go. What is happening? And she was just like, I just want y'all to talk to one another, just get to know. And we talked. And we talked for like 2 hours. Mind you, we had my mom on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And my auntie Star 4100, she was on the line as well, and they were just making sure conversation is good. So we talked for a little bit, and this is like a Zoom, and I'm like, okay, you talk for an hour. He's like, do you mind if we talk again the next day? We talked again the next day. After that, he's like, you mind if we talk again? I said, no, sir. Like, we gonna put the courtship papers in or not? Because I feel like I gave you the basics of who I am as a sister, and you have all that you need to have at this moment. Like, I don't have the time to waste. And he put courtship papers in like 2 days later. And we went through the official courtship process with our student regional captain. Tequella Muhammad and regional minister here. And we went through that process. It was so beautiful. We exchanged numbers through that way. And then we began the process. And I went through everything. I reached out to his mother, an ex. I talked to grandmother, family, friends. He did the same. We went out, courted. We did not break any laws. There was no sex prior to marriage. We really did not even have the thought or urge. Like, we both went in with the intention to do it correctly. That's how you want it to be. Like, all that can wait once you get married, but you want to make sure that this person is right for you. We went through courtship books. We watched all the lectures by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and we just really went in with the intention that this is it. Do we want it? And it was successful. And so I tell us all, like, trust in Allah. And if it's not successful, if you go into it, you start seeing those red flags, oh, this ain't it, or that's not it, then just, politely end the courtship, because that's not for you. But don't waste your time or somebody else's time. Don't force something that's not meant. But that's the best way, because you don't compromise yourself. You want to be in the mosque and say, I've never slept with any of these brothers in the mosque.
Okay.
I'm chaste. That's how you want to be. You don't want to be like, I got something to tell you. You don't want to have to do that. You want people to say, well, I know Sister Tequella is legit. I know Sister Angelica is legit, because that's how Allah wants us to be. He wants us to remain chaste and trust in him. And when you're doing it right, your vision is clear, your mind is clear, and then you can end it if you have to, but you have a clear conscience and you go into what Allah does desire for you. And so I recommend courtship, because when you do it right, to me, you get the right results.
Yes.
I think he's so amazing, and we still go through our own challenges and things, but I wouldn't trade it. Like, it's not toxic. It's no stress. We don't argue. We don't fight. It's none of that. It's literally peace. We're learning, and we're still growing with one another. We're still getting to know one another. But the process of courtship is so amazing. It's so beautiful. And if we follow it properly, Allah will bless our union. So that's all I wanted to add.
Oh, wow. I love that. Praise be to Allah. You said, you said, I don't already gave you enough. Put them courtship papers in.
Yes. Ma'am.
And see, that our sisters have to be that way. Like, I know we desire to be loved and, want to be married and stuff like that. But that's why it's so important that even in this time of singleness and embracing your singleness, build your relationship with God, build your relationship with Allah, so you can know and have great discernment to know that, oh yeah, Allah sent him. Oh, he was sent. Okay, so praise be to Allah. I love it. And if you are enjoying this episode just as well as I am, please show your support by donating today to Healing with Angelica Cash App to help sustain future episodes just like this. Also, if you are enjoying all of the episodes on CTG broadcast, please show your support as well by donating today. Information to donate will be shown on your screen below. I love you all. Now let's get back to today's show, Trusting the Journey with Sister Tequella Muhammad. Praise be to Allah. So I want to talk about the transition of like how were you able to be there for your children in that position, in that transitioning with, their father, and then, with your husband now? Like, how was that transition for them? Like, how were you able to comfort them in that time? Because I know, children, that can be a lot. And even on you, just to see your children having to deal with the transition. So how are you able to help them in that transition?
The biggest thing is talking and communication. Like they say, communication is a big thing for relationships. That includes relationships with your children. Me and my children are very close, so we talk about everything. Even the ones that did not understand, I still talk to them. I still prayed over them. I still prayed for them. We prayed together. And we just built our relationship together with Allah. We watched Juma prayer together on Fridays. I took my children to the mosque. So a lot of times people see me, they see me with my children.
Yes.
Sometimes, you'll see me by myself because, of course, you have to be able to maneuver, by yourself. But a lot of times people saw me with all my children. I was not ashamed of my children. They're blessings. So they're with me. And this journey is not just myself, it's theirs. And I had to learn to also be gentle with them and be gentle with myself. So I had to get therapy. I had to do counseling. I did Dianetics auditing. I also did some with my children so that they can get what they need to express. I was always listening. Like, what do you have to say? How do you feel about the situation? Even when it came to my husband, I asked them. I read something. I don't know if it was Minister Ava or Minister Farrakhan, but they were saying, like, if the children don't like the man, that's something you need to reevaluate, sister. So I had to make sure that my children felt comfortable. And they did. They did not have any hesitation. Like, my son was like, please marry him. He's so really oldest son, they had
Yes.
no problems, no beef, no stress, no drama. It's been like a beautiful transition. That's why I'm like, it has to be nobody but Allah to get through this, to make it as smooth as it was. And so, and of course, like you said, you have little rocky stuff in the beginning, but everything revolves around trust and study. Study, watch your children, give them what they need. And I was giving them what they need, and I didn't have a lot of people. My mom was there sometimes, but it really was just us. But I feel like I was teaching them to also, keep your trust in Allah and make Allah sufficient. And that was the biggest thing. I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, their sisters going through 10 times worse than what I was going through. So that's how I always look at it. Somebody has it harder. There's sisters that are single, that are working 2 jobs, that take their children from daycare and drop them off to another daycare, or have friends watch them, have to be away because they have no other choice to take care of their children. If I'm not present, or he's not paying child support, he's not helping in any way, or he's deceased or something to that nature, where the woman may have to struggle, or even sometimes like the man has a struggle. But no matter what our situation is, Allah allowed it to happen for a reason. And once we get to the place of just knowing Allah is God and he's not going to forsake us, I believe it'll make the journey so much more easier for us.
Yes, yes. Praise be to Allah. Communication is key. I truly believe even even my son now, he's only 2, but starting with him being at that age is just communicating with him. And also you brought up earlier about patience, and Allah sent you children, and I feel the same way, because like, oh, my 2-year-old is like, wow. So but also being able to understand as well that whatever you're going through, mommy, daddy, be open to also hearing how your children feel about what may be going on right now. And I believe younger children, like I said, my son, he can't talk as much, but, he expresses himself in a certain way when he's feeling some type of way about something. So being able to be open to communication and being humbled enough as well to know that, hey, I'm not just going through this by myself. My children are too. We're going, like you said, we're in this together. Yes. Right? So when you met your husband, and also, because it's going to bring me to my next question, because I believe that's a big problem, or a big negative perspective that the women nowadays have, is believing that just because they have multiple children, or just a child in general, and the situation that they may have been in prior, that there is no hope. Like, I'm just gonna be single, and no one wants me. I'm already damaged goods, or wherever the case may be. But with me saying that and asking that, like, what advice would you give to a woman, that wants to find love again, wants to get married again, and is allowing just her situation now, or just her having multiple children, stop her from manifesting that?
Beautiful. I was trying to look for a quote that I had in Minister Ava's book, but it's okay. I'm gonna find it toward the end, put it in the chat.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that is, so let me say this, that's a twofold. The first fold is, let us strive to obey the restrictive laws. Those restrictive laws were put in place for a reason, and that reason is so that we don't have to maneuver through life with having to, choose over our children and our husband, to go through that feeling intense regrets and
Mhm.
trying to meet someone that we now need to put into our lives to, be here for our children when we do have them. So if we're striving to live that righteous life and not make those mistakes, then we, will be in that design that Allah created initially for us. It just creates a better balance, because everyone's journey is not the same when it comes to like blended families and things. That's the first fold. With the second portion, so if you already have children, you've made those decisions or mistakes, you were previously married or you were previously in a relationship, make Allah sufficient and trust in Him. You are not going to be single forever unless you choose to.
Mm.
There are sisters that do choose to, whether they intentionally choose to or unintentionally choose to. It's really all in your mindset. If you're saying to yourself, "Oh, no man is going to want me because I have children. Nobody's looking at me because they may, some of the brothers are not. I'm just going to be,
Mm.
some of these brothers do not want women with children, and that is okay. That brother is not for you. But
Yes.
there are brothers that are looking for sisters who are God fearing, taking care of themselves and striving to be right, whether they have children or not. And Allah will make that union happen if that is Allah's desire. And so we have to always be found trusting in Allah. There's plenty of sisters who've been married and had blended families. Do they work? Yes. Do they sometimes not work? Yes. Sometimes they don't work for whatever reason or dynamic that is between them and Allah and their personal, situation. But I'm bear witness that it does work. It does take a lot more work, because a lot of times when sisters are raising children alone, we pacify our children, we give into the children's needs, we're not disciplining them like we should. We don't know how to discipline them because they don't have a man in their life. And so some of our children may be a little aggressive, some of them may be, they may be experiencing pain or hurt, frustration. They may not want you to be married again, they may just want you to themselves. There's multiple things that can happen.
Mm.
But that takes communication, that takes therapy and counseling within yourself. It takes a lot of auditing and Dianetics to just balance that out. And so anytime you're even contemplating getting into a blended family or a marriage or courtship, you need to be, first of all, studying, learning, getting books for those who speak about blended families, learning as much as you can about what could happen, learning about marriage and divorce,
Yeah.
why divorce happens. There is a higher rate of blended families, due to, divorcing because of an imbalance in the family dynamic. You got to study that. And then you also got to get everybody in the family some auditing. Everybody needs counseling and therapy. I do not shy away from it. Sit me on somebody's couch. I need to get this off of me, because it's
Yes.
real. Like, we carry so much. We're walking through the valley of the shadow of death every single
Mm.
day. As women, we can get snatched, kidnapped. I mean, we go through so much. Then we're having to protect our children. We're having to deal with so much. The Black man
Yes.
as well having to deal with so much. So a lot of us, what we're dealing with, why we can't even get along, is because we're just aberrated. We have engrams. We're going through all these different things that we just baggage that we're holding
Yes.
to, childhood baggage. Like, I'm like, we're still bringing things from when we were children into our current marriages and relations that we have not resolved. So prior to even getting into a relationship, work on you. If you
Mm.
like, oh, I want to lose weight, don't wait until you get married. Work on it now. If you want to discipline yourself better, work on it while you are single. If you
Yes.
want to build a better relationship, do not wait until you're married, because trust me, marriage is going to try you. Because when you're supposed to get up for prayer and that bed is warm, you don't want to get out of it because you got or a wife, that's a trial. Get up and pray. But a lot of times you're married, it's easier when you're single. A lot of
Yes.
things was easier for me when I was single. But that is the becoming one in that marriage, is the trials, the imbalance, two people coming together that have totally different backgrounds,
Mm.
lifestyles, different ways of growing and then coming together, now trying to establish a oneness. So yes.
That was so beautiful. Praise be to Allah. I love that. You broke it down so great. Oh my gosh. And then like I truly believe like when I brought up embracing your singleness, because I'm pretty sure I'm not married, inshallah, hopefully soon. But I'm pretty sure it ain't gonna be no real singleness when you're married. So that's why I believe that this is the most important time in a woman's life, and even in men's life. But really, just embracing, just being single, and growing and connecting with God, and getting to know yourselves, because like just when I just used to be out in the world, just jumping to relationships after relationship after relationship. I don't even know who I am. I'm just jumping in a relationship because I'm trying to fill some type of void, or just because I want love because of the lack of love I received in my childhood. And you brought up Dianetics and the importance of why we need to get to take care of that, because we do bring that in relationships, just things that we've been through, and put on the negative perspective of what we've been through on our mate. So yes, praise be to Allah. Oh my gosh, this is so good.
Too, and just learning, like you just mentioned, learning to be alone, not lonely. There's a difference between the two. Learning to be alone and being okay. I love being single. I know that sounds crazy, but because I was just doing my own thing at a certain point. Now, if you're
Mm-hmm.
because you're trying to fill a need or a void, then you're gonna always feel lonely. You're gonna always feel like I need someone. I gotta talk to someone. I gotta be on the phone. I can't be alone. I gotta be texting a man. I gotta be texting a woman. Then you haven't tapped into you. You haven't
Mm.
yourself. You got to be able to get to a place where you don't need nobody but Allah.
Oh, we.
Went through like 2 straight years of not talking to anybody, like no males, period. Like just focusing on Allah, not trying to court, not trying to talk to anyone. I said I didn't desire if it would have came, but that wasn't my focus. My focus
Yeah.
was intentionally getting to know myself, learning about my likes and dislikes, learning what I like to do, what I like to eat, what bothers me. Because then once you know you, then when you get in courtship, you can explain to him who I am. This is me.
Yes.
A lot of times we get into relationships, and like student minister Nuri said, we put on our representative, so they don't know who you are. You're telling
Mm.
you think you are. Perception. This is I don't like. I'm an introvert, and I don't like this, and I don't like that. You don't even know what introvert is. And then you get married and you want to be out in the streets after you get
Mm.
you're not an introvert. So these type of things, that because we think that we are because we heard somebody else say it, but who are you really?
Yes.
And so once we actually put that mirror up to ourselves and really get into that, take all our clothes off, look in the mirror and say, I love you, and accept yourself the way that you are, and be willing to change yourself for better. And then you can go into that relationship by giving your authentic, true self.
Yes, yes. I love that, because you speaking facts, sis.
Praise
Because
be to
a lot of the times we think we know who we are. Then we get in these relationships like, okay, well, I thought I was an introvert. I guess I'm not, because So yes, praise be to Allah, Sister Tequella. This is so good. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to speak with you, and thank you so much for being um, just open to just sharing your experience, what you've been through, especially when it comes to just being a woman and embracing your singleness and being able to come in union with your husband. So, what are you guys? How can I say it? Like, I guess, how are you guys? Is there anything that you and your husband is doing in particular that keeps you both, I want to say, connected with Allah?
absolutely. So we call ourselves the power couple with us, but we Islam. Islam is everything. He's a lieutenant. He's a paper captain. I understand the mission, so I understand what he has to go through.
Mhm.
Um, And he understands, that I'm in ministry, so I love the spiritual side. That's the part that I bring. I feel like to the relationship, he brings the military side, so we just come together with that. We do go to the marriage retreats. So since we've been married, we've been going to those marriage retreats. I think those are so phenomenal. The one
Yes.
Sister Cecilia and Brother Marcus, we've done premarital counseling prior to being married during courtship. We've done counseling with Sister Naira. I've done counseling with Sister Naira. I think we both have, Brother Marcus and Cecilia and other couples that were married. Um, After we got married, we continued on with counseling. And I think that's important to continue to understand and know yourself, because you do change throughout the seasons.
Mm.
We do change, and we are learning to communicate better. I'm always reading how to better myself. I'm
Yeah.
always reading self-help books. I'm always listening to the Mr. Louis Farrakhan's lectures, because I could have listened to it prior to being married. So I understood it from that level. But after getting married and re-listening to it, I'm like, oh, now I see what you're saying.
Mm.
So sometimes we think we understand these lectures and these books, but we don't, because we haven't gotten to that part of our journey. Um,
Yes.
so just constantly just understanding each other, having lots and lots of patience. And the key, like the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan said, is to take plenty. You have to be willing
Mm.
to plenty, and there's no out. There's no I'm about to get divorced because you said this and that. Those are your toxic traits. You got to work on those, because you're going to be confronted with yourself. With
Mm.
You're going to be confronted with those traits. You're going to be confronted with just things, looking at yourself. And you have to not point the finger and say, oh, you got all these issues, but actually point them at yourself and say, you know what?
Mm.
I got to work on myself, and be humble enough to say that and be willing to go through it. And then the other person has to be willing to stay in the process as you work and better yourself. So that's how it always is. And then you may get better, and then they may go through something that they need to work on. And it's always going to be this, until y'all get old. And that's the plan. And you should stick through it. But a lot of times we like to pull away. And so that's pretty much how we are. We study together, we read, we always sending each other text messages about the lecture or something that we're listening to, or something that we've heard recently. Everything's always about building ourselves up in the spiritual side. And I think
Yes.
really important when you're in marriages. And again, also keeping ourselves around married couples. We have dinner with other married couples, we talk to other married couples, because we want to know what you're struggling with and how to get through it, so that we
Yes.
get to that, we have a little bit more knowledge and wisdom to get through it. And so, I mean, it works. It's been working thus far, so thank Allah.
Yes. Yes. Praise be to Allah. How long has it been now? You guys
almost
been? You said 3.
almost 3 years. Yes, ma'am.
Praise be to Allah. I love that. Love that. 3 years and much, much longer. Yes. Praise be to Allah. So before we end the show, I do have just one last question to ask you. So, of course, the topic of this show was trusting the journey. So, what advice would you have for someone that is striving to trust the journey but doesn't know where to start?
Beautiful. Study guide, Friday night study group. One of the study guides is the price of redemption. That's one that we should
Mm,
really break down, but really all the study guides, because that's how we really can learn about ourselves. A lot of times, again, me being in a study group, listening to other believers talk about things that they struggle with, I'm like, wow, or things I didn't even know I struggled with. Like, I didn't
yeah.
know at one point I did suffer from anxiety, but I didn't know until study group, and I started listening to others and hearing. I'm like, wow, let me go, let me work on this. So
Hmm.
that would be the first thing. But again, study, read, listen to lectures, talk to people, believers or friends or family regarding, things that you want. Write it down. Write it down, put it in front of your face. Like, I have like this white marker that goes on mirrors, and I write things on my mirror. So I'm forced to look at it. So I got debt free on there right now, and I'm working to be debt free.
Yes, ma'am.
I have this right in front of you. And again, trust in it. Don't look at it and be like, yeah, Allah ain't got me, because it don't come when you want it to come. It doesn't come
Mm.
as you want it to come, but you have to trust in Allah. And so that would be my advice. Make him sufficient.
Yes, yes, yes. Make Allah sufficient when it comes to trusting the journey. Oh my gosh, that's the key. Trust the journey. Make Allah sufficient. That's the whole thing of the show. We're gonna sum it up there. Make
That's it.
Allah sufficient, and really making Allah sufficient is really trusting that He got you. He got you. Yeah, we don't. Sometimes we don't. Well, most of the time we don't know how things are going to turn out, but that's where your faith comes in at. And you know that, okay, I don't know how this gonna go, but Allah, you're sufficient. You know, Allah is God. So all praises is due to Allah. Sister Tequella, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today on this beautiful topic, trusting the journey. I would also like to thank my audience and amazing healing tribe for joining us today. I pray that this episode was informative, valuable, and healing to you all. Also, be sure to share, like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes on any of your favorite podcast station. Closing the Gap broadcast on Facebook, CTG broadcast on YouTube, and Healing with Angelica's podcast on Facebook and YouTube to help spread this message of healing to those in need of healing. Also, if you are ready to start your healing journey and don't know where to start, Healing with Angelica is here to assist as I am offering one-on-one calls to help get you started on your healing journey. More information to schedule your call will be shown in the description box below, including Healing with Angelica's merch and more. And please, any purchases that you make is helping to sustain and support Healing with Angelica. So please keep that in mind. Also, if anyone of you know of anyone or of yourself that is in need of prayer, Healing with Angelica would like to send a special prayer to you. And you can do this by emailing healwithangelica@yahoo.com. And also, before we end today's show, I would like to give a special recognition to those that have contributed to Healing with Angelica and what it is today. Special recognition to Crystal X, Kevin Green, Anthony Gibson, Miriam Muhammad, and Brother Roscoe. You are appreciated. So, Sister Tequela, before we end today's show, do you have any closing remarks for our audience today?
No, you summed it up, sis. Make a lot sufficient, and this we just have to strengthen ourselves in our Islam, strengthen ourselves with Allah right now. So much going on in the world. So this is
Yes.
that time where we have to just really devote ourselves and just be good brothers and sisters to one another and just really love on one another because a lot of us really need that. So that's it.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. We all need that so much, especially in this time right now. So, yes, yes, Sister Tequila, praise be to Allah. Thank you so much, beautiful, for joining me. Super excited. Yes, and thank you again to my healing tribe. I love you all. I just want to say again, just special shout out to you all. It's been going on 2 years now since I've had this show, and I just want to thank you guys for your patience. It's been a lot in regards to trying to continue to maintain the show, but I love you all, and I do this for you guys because I love you all. So praise be to Allah. And yes, I pray you guys have a great rest of your day. Assalamu alaikum. Peace, healing, and light.